Hi, I'm Jaime, and I'm an engineer from Technic. I guess I'll go right here so you can read the slides as well. And I love software. Wait, I love software. I'm an Uber geek. I just love it. I love being around it. I program a lot, so I love software. And today I'm going to talk to you about the good, the bad, and the ugly part, and the bad part of creating a startup and what is related to Qamine, my startup. So, without further ado, I want to present you Qamine. And so, Qamine in English it says like Qamine, but I've been around that name for so long that I say it in Portuguese. It's Qamine. So throughout the presentation, I'll say it like this. And so, Qamine is all about bugs. Qamine is all about finding bugs and helping the developers kill them. Okay, this is the main premise. And so that sounds very easy and very easy to understand, but does it work? Well, I've got some cool results, which I've got, and mainly from two big companies I analyzed software from, namely Facebook and Google, and I even found a bug in Linux, which was very cool. And so it got interested from big companies in Portugal, which is cool, and it got me incubated inside of Lisboa. And so this is, in a nutshell, what I am and what is Qamine. So we're going to talk about, this is the boring part, we're going to talk about what has Qamine taught me, the good stuff, the bad stuff, and the ugly stuff. And so, what is the good stuff? What have I learned? What is the awesome part that it is incorporating in making a startup? And so, the first thing is networking. You meet a lot of people. And this is a problem because we as geeks, and let me just make a survey. How many of you are engineers or in technical? Okay, so we as geeks should be aware of this. It's very easy for us to be alone in the dark in a room programming or interacting with a computer and not be focused on networking. Networking is hugely important. And so another idea that, from my experience, was greatly positive, very positive, was the idea that if you have an idea, if you have idea for building stuff, you should talk to people. And the stranger, the better. And this is, I keep a list of people with phone numbers, who I call, whenever I have an idea. And so sometimes they say, okay, that's a horrible idea. Sometimes they say, oh, that's great. Usually friends tend to say your idea is the best. So, and my mother as well says my ideas are the greatest ones ever. But it's very important to have feedback from people. And so, also, from a positive side, was the mentorship. I cannot stress enough how important it is to seek a person that has experience in the field and a person that already knows more than you to teach you things you don't know. Okay, so, because you cannot predict everything. You must have some experience to be taught to you. And so mentorship is a very good important, it's a very positive thing to do, thing to have in my while building Qamine. And so, aggregating all this information, I guess learning is one of the most positive aspects, and one of the most important aspects, indeed, because by continuing learning about the market we are placed in, about the product, is it important to people, and so on, we are able to improve our product and be more efficient in building our startup. And so I am continuously learning and very focused in learning by iterating, by doing, and by making small steps and measuring how that small steps affect people and my product. Also, I have an opinion, which is, I think this is my personal opinion, which is engineers should build stuff. We as engineers are taught to build stuff, and we should build stuff. I think we should do it more often. In fact, I think we should have side projects. Side projects, so we can be not only motivating to do something we like, but also, who knows, that might culminate in something interesting. Qamine started as a side project of mine during my master thesis, and it ended up a cool project. So, and also, one of the best feelings ever, and the motivation for you to build your own ideas, is that having people using your stuff is one of the greatest feelings ever. is just awesome. I can't describe it how that works, but I just love it. Having people using your stuff is awesome. Namely, if you can put a number of information in articles on, for example, Hacker News, it'll be, I'll promise you, it'll be very, very awesome, because you'll get tons of feedback, some positive, some people are just douchebags and they'll tell you your product sucks, but there will be people that will say important feedback to your project. And so, this is very important. I found this to be very rewarding experience. I guess what I'm trying to say is having the freedom to decide where my project goes, having the freedom to say that I'll implement this feature or I'll try this feature out is one of the greatest things ever. Having to decide what my schedule will be and having to decide what my future will be depending on my actions is very, very good. And this is the main premise of the good stuff that Qamine has brought me. And so, however, this always comes with bad side. And so, the bad side is that freedom comes with a price. It's very easy to get lost while having too much freedom. It's very easy to get sidetracked if you have too much side projects. It's very easy to not fulfill your objectives in the medium and small long run, right? And so, how did I mitigate this lack of direction? Because it's very easy to get sidetracked into doing stuff that is not important to your project. And so, we as engineers know how to do this. We have a lot of plans. We know how to plan stuff. And so I like, personally, daily objectives. I like to plan my week and to plan each day so I can keep track of what I'm doing. There are tons of tools you can use online for free, such as Asana, Trello. I personally like workflowing. So there is not a single excuse to not use one of these tools to manage yourself. Also, you shouldn't expect to get money in 2-3 months, maybe a year, because if you're doing this for the money, it probably is a bad motivation for it. I found out that I'm doing this because I love people using my stuff. I like it just a lot. I like building products that make people use it. So, no money shouldn't be something that discourages you. And so you could say, okay, I'll work part-time and I'll get to work on my project in the remaining time. But that's another problem, because that will take twice as long to launch your product. And you can even say, well, I get investment. But that's a problem, because getting investment is another full-time job. Okay, so you constantly juggle in full-time jobs as an entrepreneur and as a startup. And so what I think is a nice balance between all of these is seeking acceleration programs. Seeking acceleration programs might be a good solution, because you get networking, investment, and product development, which is for me the most important thing, in one package. Okay, so acceleration programs such as one provided by BTI are might be very, very important for you, and for me as well. And so another example of a problem or a challenge is the loneliness it gets. I personally am working on Qamine alone, and sometimes it gets very lonely. Despite the fact that you don't know if your decision is right, it also gets very lonely. You want some camaraderie to take a drink, to drink a beer, and it gets very lonely. And so, I like to think of it this way. Myself as an engineer and yourself as an engineer are very valuable. I read an article once that said this: an engineer is very valuable to a startup. An engineer who can market, it's dangerous, because he doesn't need anyone else. And so, an engineer with a mission and a goal is very dangerous. And so I like to motivate myself with this. So if I can motivate you with this, awesome. Very good. And so, Paul Graham, which is the creator and founder of one of the biggest incubators in the world, which is Y Combinator, said this: it's easier to teach business to an engineering person than to teach engineering to a business person. And so, this are the kind of stuff that motivates me when I'm lonely, when I have doubts on myself. And so, another problem is I, as an engineer, I don't know squat about design. And so every time I have a design issue, I buy it. There's not a single reason why you lose time over this. You go on themeforest.net, you have designs for $15 to $20, and you have whole sites designed for you. You can make a first prototype of that. This is not a reason to stop you. So every time I have questions about design, I don't do design. Because every time I do it, I get frustrated, I cry a lot, so it's very, it's a sad experience for me. And so, this is a constant juggling. This is a constant juggling of things you have to do, of full-time jobs. And finding the right balance, in my experience, is the key to launch stuff, to be a good and efficient entrepreneur. So, I would say this. With $20 and the knowledge that you have as engineers, you can absolutely, 1 week, launch a first version of your prototype. Absolutely. This actually, I'm thinking about a new idea I thought a week ago, and so I bought a landing page for $8 in that same site I told you. And I'm pretty close to developing a first prototype, and there's not a single reason not to do it. You as engineers know how to do it, go do it. It's awesome. And so, the ugly part. And so, regarding the ugly part, is that although there are parts in where I showed you problems which I mitigate them through various solutions, but sometimes there are problems which you just can't. Sometimes you just get sad and lonely, and things doesn't. You don't get the growth you were expecting. Things aren't going well as you're supposed to do, and so. When things get rough and when things get hard to take, I like to think of a mantra, which is the brick walls, like a philosophy or something. I think about it a lot. There was a professor in Carnegie Mellon named Randy Pausch, and Randy Pausch was a professor of virtual reality, and he discovered a couple of years ago that he got pancreatic cancer. So pancreatic cancer, for those of you who don't know, I didn't know at the time, has a 90 or 99% deadly rate. And so he eventually passed away because of it. And so he gave one last lecture, and in that last lecture, he gave a couple of phrases which are just brilliant, very motivating, and one of those really resonated with me. And so he says this: brick walls are there for a reason. Brick walls are not there to keep us out of our dreams. Brick walls are there to make us prove how badly we want things. So every time I have a challenge, that is making my life miserable, I think about it as a brick wall. It's just a brick wall for me to pass it. I just have to prove it, how badly I want it. And so this is my philosophy since like a year ago, and I think it's not doing so bad. And so, I would say this is, I think it's a cliche, but I am hungry, I am foolish, I think you should too. I think you should stay hungry, you should stay foolish, and if you're not, you should be. And that's about it. That's my presentation. If you're looking for me, that's my Reddit account, that's my email, and then that's it. Thank you.